Some of the deepest wounds a child carries are the ones they never say out loud. Recently, we talked about helping your wife discover her God-given dreams. Today, we turn that same intentionality toward your kids, because many of them quietly wonder if they're supposed to live up to your accomplishments. They love you and respect you, and without meaning to, they start to feel pressure to match what you've built. But your kids were never meant to live in your shadow. Right? They were meant to live in God's design. And if you don't help them understand their strengths, they may spend years trying to become a similar version of you instead of the person God created them to be. The good news? A few simple conversations can lift that weight. When you look at scripture, it's clear that God never intended your kids to be a carbon copy of you. Proverbs 22:6 tells us to train up your child in the way he should go, which doesn't mean pushing them down your path. It means helping them discover their path, the one God uniquely designed for them. Psalm 139, 13 and 14 reminds us that your child was fearfully and wonderfully made. God knit them together with specific strengths, interests, and, wiring. They aren't an extension of your resume. They're a masterpiece in progress crafted by the Creator himself. And Ephesians 2:10 says, your kids are God's workmanship, created for good works he prepared in advance. He prepared in advance for them. That means God has a plan for their lives that's different from yours. And part of your role as a dad is to help them step into it. Your kids don't need pressure to become more like you. They need encouragement to become the person God already created them to be. This matters because if you don't help your kids understand their strengths, the world or your accomplishments will define them for you. And that creates a silent pressure they don't know how to carry. Kids naturally look up to their dad. They see what you've built, what you're good at and how you lead, right? And without ever saying it out loud, they begin wondering if they're supposed to measure up to that. But comparison is a heavy weight for a child. It makes them question their worth, their abilities, and even their place in the family. They may start, chasing things they're not gifted for or holding back from areas where they're actually really strong, just simply because they think they're supposed to fit in your mold. On the other hand, when you help your kids see the unique strengths God placed in them, something powerful happens. Their confidence grows, their anxiety shrinks. They stop trying to impress you and start trusting who God made them to be. And that's when your home becomes a place of freedom, not pressure. A place where your kids feel just safe to learn, explore, and grow just into their God-given identity instead of living in your shadow. So how do you actually help your kids discover their strengths in a way that feels natural, simple, and life-giving? Let me give you a few steps that you can begin this week. Number one, pay attention to what gives them life. Strength often shows up in moments, your kids feel most alive. Watch what they lean into when no one is telling them what to do. Notice the activities that get them talking, right? The projects they stick with, the tasks that seem easy for them but hard for others. Then ask gentle questions. What part of that did you enjoy? Or what makes that fun for you? Kids often don't recognize their own strengths until someone points them out. And no voice carries more weight in their life than yours. Number two, speak their strengths out loud. Most kids assume everyone is wired the same way they are, so they don't realize their strengths are strengths. They need you to say it. Tell your kids you see courage in them. Tell your daughter you see compassion or creativity or leadership. Call out not just, what they're good at, but, who they're becoming. When you speak life into your kids consistently, you're shaping their identity in a way the world never could. Number three, create low-pressure opportunities to explore. Your kids won't find their strengths by accident. They need room to explore. Try new hobbies. Sign up for a sport. Let them attempt a project. Give them time in the kitchen or the garage, the garden, or a volunteer role. Make it clear, these aren't commitments, they're experiments. The goal isn't performance, it's exploration. This takes the weight off and helps them discover what truly fits them. Number four, share your story, but remove the comparison. Tell your kids about your strengths and weaknesses growing up. Tell them what came naturally to you and what didn't. But make sure they know this. You don't have to be like me. God has something unique for you. This single message relieves so much pressure. It frees them to enjoy just your story without feeling like they need to copy it. Number 5, pray for insight into their design. Ask God to show you how He wired each of your children. Ask Him for clarity and wisdom. Then share, what you sense He's doing in them. When your kids know you're praying for their growth, not their performance, it changes the way they see themselves and the way they see you. Here's what I want to leave with you today. Your kids aren't looking for a dad who has every answer. They're looking for a dad who sees them, really sees them, and calls out what God is putting inside of them. You have the power to lift a weight off of their shoulders that they may never mention, but they feel every day. And you have the privilege of helping them step into a future shaped not by your accomplishments, but by God's design. So here's your challenge this week. Sit down with each child and ask one simple question. What's something you've done recently that made you really excited? Then listen, reflect it back to them, affirm a strength you see. You may be surprised at what comes out of that conversation. It might be small, it might be subtle, but it will be a step, toward helping them understand who God made them to be. Take the time, ask the questions, notice the strengths, and let God use your voice to shape a legacy of confident, secure, God-honoring sons and daughters. Would you subscribe to the Courageous Men podcast? And hopefully will you share this with a brother who needs to lead his children in this way, right? Maybe he needs that challenge and the encouragement to live courageously. Join the Courageous Men community today. Let's take action. Let's be courageous.